Welcome in, everybody, to the 6 Point Sports YouTube channel. I am John, and the Chicago Bears schedule has officially been released for the upcoming 2026-2027 NFL season. Now, I say officially like that because it's been kind of leaked game by game for the past couple of days, but the entire schedule was actually leaked in the comments of a Connor Byrne TikTok by a guy by the name of Jacob Sandals. He just replied in the comments, game by game, and he ended up being correct. Now, I've heard that he's deleted his TikTok account, deleted all his social media accounts. Nobody knows who Jacob Sandals is. Does he have a parent that works for the Bears? Does he have a parent that works for the NFL? I don't know, but shout out Jacob Sandals because we got the Bears schedule about a day and a half ago before it was officially released by the Bears official social media account, which they put together a pretty cool video with Roma Dunze acting as Bob Ross, painting a beautiful picture, which I would love to have that picture, by the way. I don't know how you get that. Is there an auction or do they just give it away? I don't know, Bears. I would be a rightful owner. But let's dive into the Bears schedule in this video. We're going to talk about some big headlines that I've seen on Twitter throughout the day, as well as the entire schedule. We'll go game by game and share a couple big storylines that pop off the page to me for each of these games. The biggest thing that stands out to me just looking at the schedule is 7 primetime / standalone games, which has got to be the most that the Bears have ever had. Obviously, with a big fan base, a lot of eyes on the team for the success last year, all the thrilling games, all the comebacks in the fourth quarter. The NFL seems to expect the Bears to take a leap forward by putting them in front of all the national eyeballs for 7 different games this season. Another thing that stands out to me on Twitter today was the strength of schedule. Everybody's talking about it. The Bears have the toughest schedule in the NFL based off of opponent win percentage for the previous season. While I don't really think this matters all of that much because things change in the NFL very quickly. Year over year, you see teams finish worst and jump to first, just like the Bears did last season. And actually last year they had the second toughest schedule. And you can't really predict which quarterbacks are going to be out, which key players are going to be out in these games. So I think you could pretty much throw that stat out the window. And a lot of that is coming from the Bears playing in a tough division. They play 6 pretty tough games against the Vikings, 2 against the Vikings, 2 against the Lions, 2 against the Packers every year. And it is a pretty tough division. But something that I think does matter is the travel. The Bears have the 3rd fewest miles traveled this year with around 10,000. The team with the most is the 49ers, almost 4 times as many miles traveled as the Bears on this schedule. Not having an international game obviously helps the Bears in that case. A lot of people thought that the Bears would end up playing in Spain this year. Ultimately, they do not. They will play in Spain. It just won't be this year, so that helps a lot. So that's nice to see that they don't have an international game this schedule. You don't have to set your alarm clock too early for any Bears games this year. And we're going to jump into it game by game. I'm just going to share a couple storylines and my thoughts initially as I see this schedule together. But first, week number 1, the Bears go to Carolina, take on the Panthers. Right now, just on FanDuel, I'm using the Bears are 2.5-point road favorites in this game. Now, a lot of people were speculating that the Bears would play the Seahawks on that Wednesday opener. Even Adam Schefter said that. Carolina is definitely an easier matchup for the Bears than the Seahawks would have been in week 1. But I don't think it's a team that the Bears fans should be overlooking and just assuming that we're going to start off 1-0 so easily because the Panthers suck. They don't suck. They made the playoffs last year. They won their division, albeit a pretty weak division. They made the playoffs. Gave the Rams a pretty good game. Now, the Bears and Panthers will forever be linked because of that massive trade that Ryan Poles was able to pull off a couple years ago that gave the Panthers the number 1 overall pick, where they were ultimately able to draft Bryce Young, first overall out of Alabama. The Bears get a package that included DJ Moore, who the Bears ended up trading for some draft picks that ended up being tight end Sam Roush this year, and also quarterback Malik Muhammad. The Bears also get the number 1 overall pick that ended up being Caleb Williams, the face of the franchise in Chicago. Also a All-Pro, second-team All-Pro right tackle last year, Darnell Wright. Luther Burden, who I expect to take a giant leap this year, who showed some great talents last year. Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, punter Torrey Taylor, and of course those two picks that I mentioned before. I think the Panthers' defense has improved a lot on paper this offseason. Bryce Young gets another year under his belt. They had the Offensive Rookie of the Year with wide receiver Tet McMillan. And, they had a pretty good year last year. They won a weak division, but they played the Rams pretty tough. I thought for a while they were going to win that game in the wild card round. And I do think the Panthers will take a leap forward. And it should be a pretty good week 1 matchup for the Bears. Moving on to week number 2. The Vikings travel to Chicago. The Bears' home opener will be likely against new Minnesota quarterback Kyler Murray. 2 short quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks. We get Bryce Young and then Kyler Murray. This is an opportunity for the Bears to start better, start off on the right foot in the NFC North. Last year, of course, they started 0-2 in the regular season, but also in the NFC North. They lost that game that they blew against the Vikings at home in week 1, and then ultimately got blown out by the Lions in week 2. Luckily, things got better, but I think the Bears have a good opportunity to start off on a better foot this season. Week number 3, Eagles head to Chicago for the Bears' second home game of the season, a rematch of that Black Friday game last year, where the Bears pretty much dominated on both sides of the ball the entire game. That kind of felt like the game that really showed that the Bears were for real last year, and this is another opportunity for the Bears to prove themselves. And that Bears-Eagles alliance last year that was so strong on Bears Twitter and on Eagles Twitter, where the Bears and Eagles beat up on each other's divisions, and then it came down to that one game. I don't expect that to be a thing this year because we don't play that division. It's just the Eagles. And I don't think that niceness is going to continue on social media this year. Let's move on to week number 4. The Jets go to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Jets sucked last year. They'll probably suck this year too. Geno Smith is the new quarterback. Of course, he threw 3 interceptions against the Bears when they traveled to Vegas and won that 25-24 game, I believe, when Blackwell blocked the field goal at the end. And the Jets had 0 interceptions last year, but they do have Nashawn Wright, who had a good amount of interceptions for the Bears last year. Perhaps a revenge game for him. I'm not sure. Another big storyline in this game will be Ben Johnson versus Aaron Glenn. They were both coordinators for the Lions when they had all of that success under Dan Campbell. Now the two former Detroit coordinators take on each other in week number 4. Week 5 is a game that we all have circled on our calendars. Bears at Packers, heading to Lambeau Field. No big storylines necessary for this game. The Bears-Packers rivalry is as strong as it's ever been. Both teams should be pretty good this year. And Micah Parsons is expected to miss the beginning of the season. But will he be out for week 5? It's too early to tell, but I am always pumped for a Bears-Packers game. And hopefully we can sweep those bums this year. If you are a Chicago sports fan, you have got to get your hands on some 6 Point Sports merch. Got a couple things up on the site right now. Couple hats, couple shirts. First up, my favorite is just this hat right here. Chicago 6 Point Sports. Got the sweet logo on it. For the Cubs fans, we got the Federal Landmark 6 Point Sports patch on the side. Mine's a little worn in because I've been wearing it a lot. Next up is the Ben Johnson shirt. It's that simple. He's the best coach in football. You can't buy a Ben Johnson jersey. Might as well buy a Ben Johnson shirt at 6pointsports.com. And then for the Cubs fans, Friday 120 at Wrigley Field. There's nothing better than that. Everybody knows that. Friday 120, drinking team tea. You got the clock. You've got the beer snake. You got to get it at 6pointsports.com. And right now, if you order anything from the website, I'll throw in this Chicago Bears schedule magnet. Everybody loves to have the schedule magnet. You might look at it all summer. You might check up on it throughout the season. And of course, all orders, we throw in a couple stickers too. So get your merch at 6pointsports.com. And back to the video. Week number 6. Bears at Falcons. Will it be Tua? Will it be Michael Penix? I don't know. And I don't know if it really makes much of a difference. Both pretty similar quarterbacks. And the Falcons is a team that has been put together this offseason by GM Ian Cunningham, who of course was with the Bears And despite what the NFL says, he's calling the shots in Atlanta. I would still like to go get those comp picks, but the NFL is really screwing us there. Now, the last time the Bears have played the Falcons was back in 2023. If you remember, it was that snowy game. Justin Fields had a pretty good game, and I'm pretty sure the Bears won by a pretty wide margin, which hopefully they could do again this year. Week number 7, Patriots at Bears, a rematch of Super Bowl 20. This is on Thursday Night Football, prime time, in front of a national audience on Amazon Prime. Drake May versus Caleb Williams, two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, two quarterbacks at the top of their draft class. The Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini stuff has been in the storylines all, past couple weeks, months, whatever. Will it die down by then? I'm not really sure. Former Bear Kevin Byard is now with the Patriots. He had a huge breakout season last year with the Bears, but ultimately decided to return with his former coach, Mike Vrabel. So that will be a reunion game in there.
Well, he already has the nickname Iceman. And the reason why is because, obviously, young quarterbacks, they're going to need time to develop.
For sure.
But when you talk about game on the line and we need him to make a play,
he's fearless.
There's really nobody that I would rather have under center. Outside of Drake May now. But
also, the Bears made a trade with the Patriots just a couple of weeks ago, actually at the beginning of the offseason, that sent Garrett Bradbury, the center, to the Bears for a 5th-round pick. Now, the Bears did spend a pretty high draft pick on the center out of Iowa, Logan Jones. So I'm not sure if Bradbury will be the center in Week 7 or not, but it should be a pretty good game. We'll move on to week number 8. So they go from the AFC champ in Week 7 to week number 8, prime time against the Super Bowl champion and NFC champs, Seattle Seahawks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people thought that the Bears would be taking on the Seahawks on that Wednesday night opener. That is not the case. They are playing them in Week 8. Kobe Bryant, who won the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, should be at safety for the Bears facing his former team. And the last meeting between these two teams was Caleb's rookie year. I'm sure you all remember, unfortunately, that primetime game the Bears lost 6-3. I know one thing is probably, I will say this. One thing will be true. This game will be better than that one, that's for sure. Week number 9, another primetime game. The Bears go Week 7, Week 8, Week 9, all in primetime, Sunday Night Football. Buccaneers in Chicago, Caleb versus Baker Mayfield. And there's two stats in this game at first glance that really surprised me. And that's one, the Bears, this is their first home Sunday Night Football game since 2019. And also, Baker Mayfield is 1-9 in primetime games since taking the quarterback job in Tampa Bay. Then we go on to week number 10. It's a bye week. It's later in the season this year. Last year, of course, the Bears had the Week 5 bye where they were 2-2 heading into that. But I like this Week 10 bye. It's pretty much right in the middle of the season. And the schedule gets tougher as it goes on. The Bears have a really tough stretch at the end of the schedule, as we'll get into later. But it's a good opportunity to kind of, split the season right in half and get some guys back from injury before they get to this stretch of tough games. And then we'll move on to week number 11. Saints at Bears. The Bears beat the Saints last year by 12 points. Spencer Rattler was the quarterback at that point. But they really turned it on towards the end of the season with Tyler Shuck when he took the quarterback job. I would assume that he'll be the quarterback in this week 11 matchup. And then we move on to week number 12, which is Thanksgiving. The Bears are back on the Thanksgiving schedule with the early game in Detroit. Right now on the sports books, the Bears are 2.5 road underdog in this game. It's the first Bears Thanksgiving game since, of course, the disaster with Matt Eberflus and the timeouts at the end of that game where the Bears had a chance to win it. And it ultimately led to the firing of Matt Eberflus, so there were some good things that came from it. And of course, the storyline is going to continue this year with Ben Johnson facing his former team. He had all this success with the Lions as the offensive coordinator, now taking over as the head coach for the Bears in his second season. But this is a Bears game that they have to win. They were 0-2 against the Lions last year. Ben Johnson still has to notch a win against his former team, and this would be a perfect time to do it in front of a national audience on Thanksgiving. Also, Khalif Raymond facing his former team. Maybe the Ben Johnson could draw up a couple plays for him to really bust out and make an impact in this game. Now let's bring up that Family Guy clip.
Oh, crap. Easy there. Hey, it's Thanksgiving. Shouldn't you be in Detroit losing a football game right now?
Week 13, Jaguars at the Bears. Perhaps the two biggest surprises in the AFC and NFC last year. Both teams won their divisions, had a massive turnaround from the previous year. And these Florida boys are coming to Chicago pretty late in the season. Maybe we can get some cold weather, take advantage of that. That's something I'm always looking at the tail end of the schedule. Which teams are coming to Chicago when the bear weather starts to come out? Then we move on to Week 14. More talk about the weather. The Bears are playing at Miami. Now, I'm always pleased to see when the Bears play the Dolphins later in the season rather than in September, October, when it can be pretty hot in Miami, and the Bears players might not be used to that at that point in the season. Now, Malik Willis should be the starting quarterback for the Dolphins after signing a 3-year, $67.5 million contract. Yeah, we saw him last year when the Bears took on the Packers, and Austin Booker ultimately knocked Jordan Love out of that game. He did have some success with his legs. The Bears had a little bit of trouble containing him. We'll see how it goes in week number 14. Now this one popped off the schedule to me as one of the most intriguing games in week 15. Bears at Bills, Saturday Night Football, prime time in front of a huge national audience in the new Bills Stadium. Caleb Williams versus Josh Allen. DJ Moore playing against his former team, and maybe, just maybe, this is a preview for this year's Super Bowl. Week 16, Packers at Bears. The Bears right now are 1.5-point home favorites on Christmas, and all I want for Christmas is a Bears win against the Packers. Last year, the Bears were 2-0 at home against the Packers, one of those being late in the season. Of course, the walk-off Hail Mary in overtime, and then the best game that I've ever attended in my life. The Bears win wild card round, come all the way back to beat the Packers. And then, week 17, another divisional game. The Bears actually closed the season with 3 divisional games, Week 16 against the Packers, Week 17 against the Lions, and Week 18 against the Vikings. Week 17 could be a pretty cold game in Chicago at that point in the year. The NFC North could be coming down to this game, and really the whole NFC playoff picture as a whole, this should have big playoff implications. Week 18, Bears at Vikings. Now I hope this game is really just Tyson Bagent under center. We rest all the starters, already got the number 1 seed locked up. But we'll have to see how the season plays out to see the importance of this game as it is right now. I'm actually just looking at FanDuel I have up right now. The Bears are plus 106, so pretty much a pick 'em around even money to make the playoffs again this season. And they're plus 1,300, 13-1. To be the number 1 seed and get a bye. Hopefully that's the case, and this Week 17 game does not matter. All right, let's do a game-by-game prediction. This is way too early to be doing anything like this. Still a lot of things to play out in the offseason. Obviously, like I said, you can't predict any injuries or anything for the season, but this is the way too early prediction. I'll do one later down the road, closer to the kickoff of the season. But let's just get into it with week number 1, win against Carolina. Week 2, we're going to start better in the NFC North, 1-0, 2-0 on the season. Bears-Eagles, tough matchup. I think the Bears match up pretty well against the Eagles. We saw how it played out last year. I'm going to give us a 3-0 start, actually make that 4-0 start, win against the Jets. Then I'm expecting a split against the Packers, home and away. I'm going to give the Packers their home game. Bears start 4-1. Bears beat the Falcons 5-1. And then these next 2 games, I'm just going to count as losses. They're teams that you have to give respect to. They were in the Super Bowl last year. Bears lose to the Patriots. Bears lose to the Seahawks. We're 5-3. But get a win before the bye. Heading into the bye in week number 10 with a record of 6-2. 7-3. I think we beat the Saints after the bye, 7-3. Lose to the Lions on the road on Thanksgiving, now 7-4. I think we beat the Jags at home, 8-4. Beat Miami, 9-4. The Bills played pretty well late in the season. That's a tough game on the road. We're going to go to 9-5. Beat the Packers, 10-5. Beat the Lions, 11-5. And this one, against the Vikings in the final week of the season, I'm going to count that as a win. The Bears finish 12-5. Bear down. If you guys like these videos, make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to start posting some more long form videos. Of course, we post a lot of short form videos on TikTok, Instagram, here on YouTube Shorts, and then on X. 6 Point Sports everywhere. And I want to mention just again, if you buy anything off the store at 6pointsports.com, we will be sure to throw in, of course, stickers, but also this Bears schedule magnet on this beautiful graphic so you can look at it all summer long. Thanks for watching, and bear down!